I now want to turn the floor over to Nickolas Bellantoni, the official Connecticut State anthropologist.
First of all, thank you all for coming out. Anticipating that this was going to be on Halloween, whether it would be crowd or the crowd would be dressed up, we weren't quite sure. But really great to see you all, and thank you for coming. We really have, a wonderful team of researchers here that put a lot of time and effort into understanding the nature of the green and the discoveries that unexpectedly were in front of us, not only the skeletal remains, but of the time capsule itself. That was quite a surprise. And, Yale University, you mentioned Quinnipiac University, UConn, and as you can see, going down, the University of Florida, researchers from really all over the nation have been involved with this. So we thank them all, and you'll get to hear some of them as we go on with this. And some of their research and what they've done is just really fantastic, and you'll get the appreciation of that. Well, it all started with Sandy, as we all know, and basically a Superstorm Sandy cut through the area and not only led to destruction along the coast, but swept in and took out the Lincoln Oak in New Haven Green. And when that happened, when Superstorm Sandy came through, if you remember, it came through from the east, and so it was blowing toward the west. So when the tree flipped, when finally flipped, it actually flipped going toward the west, which becomes a very interesting part of our story, because the people that were laying on the New Haven Green were laying in a classic Christian mortuary practice, which means that they were laid on their back in an extended position, but an east-west orientation with head to the west. The idea is that if they lay in the ground, they face the east, and on the day of resurrection, Christ will come up with the sun out of the east and literally draw them from their housing. So the early Christian graves are laid out in that way for preparation so what ended up happening, as the tree flipped over, the root mat had taken up the bones, if you will, and flipped them up. And so what we had were inverted skeletons. In other words, you can see the cranium down here, with the mandible, with the mouth area going up, and you've got ribs going up. In other words, they were in a kind of yoga position. I don't know how to say it. With the feet actually higher on the root mat and the heads down. It was very bad. In all my years, I've never seen this kind of a position or have to deal with it. So it presented a series of problems. The other issue is that we knew that there were burials on the New Haven. We understand that history for a long time. But we anticipated they were down 4, 5, 6 feet below surface. The tree mat here only really penetrated about 2.5, at best 3 feet down. So we were very surprised to see the remains at that level. And what I basically think now is sometime probably in the late 19th century, there was a lot of landscaping going on in that green. And the ground level in the 18th century, these people were buried at 4 to 6 feet, but now in the 21st century, they're really only 2 to 3 feet below ground. So because of landscaping, movement of soils, we now have a situation where even a tree root that doesn't extend that far can bring up human remains. So basically, when it was reported by someone walking through the green that they saw blown, it went to the New Haven Police Department, and we really want to thank the New Haven Police Department and the New Haven Parks and Recs. They all did a wonderful job for all of us on this, not only the investigation, but with the time capsule. And with that, the police notified the state's chief medical examiner's office, who then came down with the crew. Dr. Gary Aronson will be one of our speakers in the second section. You can see Gary here working with, he was the first to arrive on the scene with the medical examiner's office. I didn't get there until the following day. I was hiding out. I didn't find me, but Gary was able to come in and assist the forensic teams right away. So what we started to do now with this tree that had now fallen and the mat system. The police were very good. They roped it off for us and fenced it off. Often work best behind fences. And then we started the excavations. And then this was kind of a different kind of archaeological excavation. Usually we come down horizontal. It's a matter of moving soils, very carefully exposing remains. But in this case, the remains were entwined into the root mat. And so it involved cutting, snipping, pruning, if you will, of the root mass, and to free up the bone, but to free it up in a way that would preserve it and maintain it and not break it apart. It was already, because of the states of decomposition, already broken up because of the root mat. And you'll see some of those photographs there. One of the things we decided to do is to keep our controls. We divided the root mat into sections, every meter, so into 4 sections. So as we collected the remains, we knew exactly from which areas they all came from and had controls. And you can see everything went through a hardware mesh screen so that we could, in fact, if anything we missed in the root mat would get caught up in the screen and give us the best mechanism of recovery that we could get here. But it was a very delicate situation and very sandy soils. The soils were extremely sandy, which in some cases helped our working. And then what happened is we came upon the Lincoln Oak base, the monument that was at the base of the tree, and that had been exposed. We also had some issues we'll explain later with the base of that. But then it became what we needed to do was try to put this all into context. At this point, when we removed that base, we did not understand that there might be a time capsule involved. And basically at that point, what we were doing was dealing with basically skeletal remains. And when we later on found out information through Rob Greenberg, who saw a newspaper article saying that got us into the second series of investigations here, and that concerned the time capsule and the recovery of the time capsule. So 2 very unique situations talking about the history of the green. So now what we're going to do a little tag team here. We've got a bunch of researchers who are going to come up and talk about their phases of excavations and talk about the context, the history of the green and the burial ground, and then we're going to get into the time capsule. We're going to go through that in terms of what we did and what we found, and then we're going to take a break, about a 15-minute break, and then we're going to have you come back in, stretch your legs if you need, and we're going to deal then with the skeletal remains in the second half, okay? So with that,